You're listening to the final act and conclusion of the Sputnik Satellite Radio Show. Tracy, without consulting Nick, in a bold move, brands her airtime as the Sputnik Satellite Radio Show news. This irks Nick to no end. He has never been challenged like this before, let alone in his radio station, least of all by a rookie teddy girl radio announcer. Although he is beyond upset, he also is witnessing a massive shift of fortune, and he knows he could not have accomplished this without Tracy. He can, for the first time in months, see a light at the end of the tunnel, so wisely he keeps his cool. Keeps reminding Tracy she's just reading the news at WNYK 1150 AM radio. But soon, the news hour quadruples in audience size, and listeners keep calling in for Tracy. Advertisers begin asking her to read their brand advertising. Nick must concede, and the show name sticks, as he watches ad revenue going up. Companies are now bidding for primetime advertising spots for the news segment of daily airtime. Tracy soon becomes more popular than Nick as a radio host on Nick 1150 Radio. She falls into her talent in real time, live on air. Tracy's a natural radio on-air personality. Between shows, while meeting with Nick, she refers to herself as a radio farmer tending to her Sputnik pod. In Nick's mind, her show is a highly manipulative radio talk show, but the audience loves it. The show becomes wildly popular in a short period of time, like nothing Nick has ever seen or imagined. Tracy comments, "Well, it's like a virus. People keep catching it and passing it along." Nick scoffs at the thought of using the term virus to describe the show's growing popularity. It's like saying the show's gone viral. Why not call it the Sputnik Satellite Polio Show? Tracy responds with a smirk. "Haha, very funny. Rock around the clock, Nick." Nick cringes. As the show continues to grow, Nick can see that Tracy requires support and more elbow room to run her fast-moving show, and so he moves her to Studio A. Soon her airtime increases to an all-day talk show. Nick's airtime eventually gets put on hold, and he remains at the operator's desk, supporting the Sputnik Satellite Radio Show every day for a full shift. In this wacky turn of events, he finds himself recording calls and operating the console on air for Tracy, who never seems to tire or get overwhelmed. For the first time in his life, Nick is not the front man and finds himself in a support role. As humbling as it is, Nick mans up and takes on the role of station manager, order taker, mail clerk, coffee maker, cleaner, and surrogate dad. Then it happens. The director of advertising for Cadillac calls the station to discuss a prime AAA spot to promote their year-end sale of the 1957 Coupe de Ville. Nick is over the moon with this hard-to-get personal contact and major opportunity. Although Nick realizes he's literally being rescued, he secretly longs for the return to his station as it was before Sputnik. Nick drifts into a dream sequence where he sings with his imaginary West Coast swing band and is a star in his own show once again. Tracy joins in as his sidekick for My 57 Cadillac, then taps on her wristwatch, brings him back into the room with the latest news flash. November the 3rd, 1957, Latvia the Spy Dog has been launched into space, riding Sputnik 2. The president of General Motors, Harlow Curtis, calls Nick directly to book a full-year contract for AAA airtime. As it turns out, he's a fan of swing music and the original format of Nick 1150 Radio before Sputnik. They strike up a brilliant friendship. Nick is beyond over the moon. During this rocket ship ride and rising star of Tracy, Nick observes her struggles on air and decides to mentor her more closely. He realizes she's not just fallen into this success by dumb luck. Every day, she's in early, carefully researching and choosing her stories, outlining her scripts, knowing her subject, and operating like a seasoned pro. He concludes, she's in fact a media prodigy and a AAA revenue generator. Through this shift, Tracy finds her humility and sense of humor, and she consults with Nick to help build her audience. During late-night debriefing meetings, she plays him out like a daughter teasing her dad. She loses her pretentiousness and interacts with him, making obvious verbal mistakes to get his goat. She purposely mixes up the word broadcast for podcast. This always catches Nick's attention, and he asks, Did you just say podcast? No, I said broadcast. Oh, okay. This gag repeats throughout the second act. As the show grows in popularity, real and fictitious call-in stories spin out of control live on air, and it becomes pure entertainment and gains national attention. In addition, offstage, authentic archival interviews play out on the projector screens. During the rise of Tracy, Nick moves further from his first love of spinning music to being a station manager. 2 months pass, filled with long hours, hard work, fun and excitement, bookkeeping, and camaraderie, all leading to a successful year-end. After all, it's only entertainment. By New Year's Eve 1957, the American taste for the Soviet space race has dwindled, as rumor has it a third Sputnik will launch by the spring of 1958 on a scientific mission. The news audience has moved on. Listeners stop calling in, and headlines move back to the top of the hour. With the excitement ending, Tracy decides this is her moment to move on. She thanks Nick for the experience and gives her notice. Nick understands and in a tender moment shakes Tracy's hand as an equal. Tracy tears up and gives him a big hug, a tender moment. Realizing Tracy saved him in a time of need, he pulls out his bankroll and pays her well-earned wages in cash. More than enough to help her get started and out of this town, way too small for her. It's only rock and roll. Tracy gives her final bit of advice to Nick. Change the format to rock and roll. Hire a fresh young DJ and aim the format at a younger audience driving the new affordable Chevys. Nick agrees. This is the best course of action. But he will continue to host his swing music show on Saturday night. He's even got a new show name. Big Daddy's on Saturday night. And you guessed it. He will be Big Daddy himself. He will have Cadillac as his sponsor, the gold standard automobile. With his goal set for the new year, Nick is happy. He even has enough cash to rehire his old staff with back pay and start the new year right. As Tracy picks up her things and prepares to leave, she turns to Nick and says, perhaps she'll move to Russia and start up a new station. Sputnik Radio News. Nick stares at her blankly. They both mirror a fake laugh. And Tracy departs. Nick pulls out a new record from an unopened sleeve and spins his first rock and roll record by Bill Haley and the Comets. Rock Around the Clock. He starts to snap his fingers in rhythm, and then for the first time awkwardly begins dancing to the big backbeat of rock and roll. Nick closes the show with Big Daddy's on Saturday night too. The end.
The Big Daddy's on a Saturday night, gonna shine them souls up bright. The Big Daddy's on a Saturday night.